In this video, we're going to cover formatted string literals. What does that mean? Well, we'll get into it. So we have three variables that I'm going to print out here in line number 6. And we also have a cost that I'll print in a little minute or so. But I just want to show you that you can print all these variables as such, concatenating a string with another string, basically the variables that we're holding in lines 1 through 3. And at the end here, we are concatenating year, but we are casting it over to a string because you cannot concatenate an integer, which is what this is, without a string, into a string, right? So just bear that in mind. So first of all, what can we do? Let's run this, make sure that this runs without a problem, and we can see that this is printing as we expect. Maybe the period here is not needed, but you get the idea. We'll get something just like this. So let's assume that that's fine. We don't see an issue with it, but we know that we are going to see an issue with it pretty soon. But first of all, let me show you what the fix is. If I show you the solution, or a better way to do this, we can see what the problem is. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the quotes and the pluses. Remove all the quotes and the pluses. Remove all the quotes and the pluses. All the pluses and the quotes. And pluses and the quotes. Pluses and the quotes. So if we have something like that, we have to end with a quote. But first of all, if I do this, we know that this is not the same as this on the top. So what can we do? Well, let's make it an F string by doing a F, prefixing with an F. That's a formatted string literal. But now we want to make sure that everything in here that needs to be a variable gets resolved to a variable first, and then the value gets displayed. So for example, make. It is not what we want to print out. We want to make that into a variable. The curly braces tell Python, this is a variable, resolve it, get me the value of this variable, and then display it in the string. Same thing with model. This is the idea we do with model as well, and with the year. This whole expression here, we're going to make it as such. So if you save this and you run it, we get to see that it's pretty close. The only difference is that here we have an extra space, and here we did not. So let's make it so that we don't have the extra space, and we have the same two strings. Now, what's the difference between this one, which is not using the F string, and the F string version? Well, if you have heard me say this before, you probably have, but the less things we have to manage, the better off we'll be. And the things that we have to manage with this first version is we're managing more plus signs and more quotes. And so you can imagine that all it takes is for us to get one of these pluses down off, or not only that, or one of the quotes. And you see that we're going to make this a big issue. In software development, that's one of the things that we strive to do, is manage less things whenever we can. And make things more readable. So you can argue that this solves those two. It makes it more readable. We can see right off the bat what are the variables that we're going to resolve. And not only that, but we don't have to worry about the pluses and the quotes, right? Either the single quotes or double quotes. We don't have to deal with that. Same thing with, for example, if we wanted to do a double quote, right? By the way, you could do this a double quote here and a double quote here. And you can say, my cars, you can say something like this now, my cars make is, you could do something like that, and that works. And you could introduce a single quote, right? And that works. So just something to think about. But overall, that's the main idea behind this. And just to show you that this cost, we're not printing it, but I did have it here as a reminder for me to show you that we could also let me put this as it was before, so we can make sure that it says exactly the same as the top. And here we have exactly what's on the top. Here I'm going to print one more thing here. I'm going to print the cost of this car, right? The cost, which is cost. Just want to show you one thing we could do with F strings. If we print this, you'll see that we have this, and that's okay. But there's two things we could do with f-strings as well. We can say, hey, let's format this a different way. Let's do it with a comma. And we could do something like this, cost dot comma. Actually, with f-strings, you could do it like this, cost dot comma. And one of the things you could do is again, that's my mistake for not doing the curly brace. I apologize. Another thing is you have to do it within here. So just pay attention to that. Then you get the comma here. So it's at every, $642,000 and $208, right? That's what this means. And not only that, but this actually makes no sense for us. So we can kind of format that to 2 decimal places, which is 2 floating points. If we say this, it'll round it up to the next. So instead of 208, it's actually 209 now. So it was 208, now it's 209. So it rounds up. So this is a beauty, one of the things you could do with f-strings as well. Really neat. There's many different ways that you could format strings using dot format as well. I'll do a video on that as well, so take a look at that if you need to. But this is definitely one of my favorite ways to print, deal with strings, right? Printing strings.